this on so they can hear us. And we're going to minimize this news. Maybe.
What did they call the Xbox thing? Showcase?
Microsoft Games Show or Xbox Games Showcase. So, we are ready when you are.
All right, ready?
Yep.
Welcome to the Midwest Game Nerds podcast. I'm your host, John, and here with me today are Brian.
Hey.
And Alex.
Hello.
Brian's not actually here, but I'm gonna pretend to be him every once in a while.
We'll throw it to Brian. Hey Brian, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I played a lot of Destiny, and I played some other things.
Good. All right. Good to hear from you, Brian.
He's gonna be so mad.
We'll see if he actually listens to or watches the episode.
Right. All right. That being said, today we're going to talk about the Xbox Game Showcase and Ghost of Tsushima, which Alex and I don't know how much time Alex has put into it. I feel like I've put in a fair amount of time in this game, considering what little time I do have.
Yeah. I think I put maybe at least 12 to 15 hours in it so far. But
I want to say I'm pretty close to that, maybe a little bit more than you. I'm not sure.
We'll get there.
Before we get to all that, if you follow us on social media or see other places you can listen to or watch the show, check out MidwestGameNerds.com/links. The Midwest Podcast Network now has a Patreon. The Patreon is meant to benefit all the shows on the network. You can subscribe as little as $1 a month and help keep our shows alive and well. Check it out at mpn.bz/Patreon. Thanks again to Jason K, Gojo, and Sidza for their contributions to the Patreon. We love you guys. We love all our patrons and appreciate everything you guys do for us. As always, we do appreciate your feedback, which you can send to MidwestGameNerds@gmail.com. And don't forget to follow us on Twitch, as well as rate and review us on your favorite podcatcher. Alex, any bumpers for the network?
Yes, the Horror Movie Yearbook guys finished up their summer of Scream this past week with an episode on Scream 4, so please go check that out when you get a chance. And The Alienist is back. The Alienist Angel of Darkness is currently airing on TNT, and our recap podcast has returned. They are releasing 2 episodes per week, starting last week, and there are 8 episodes. So we had to record 2 episodes in one night, and it's very hard, and I hope people appreciate it.
That's what she said.
But check those out, thealienist.tv and horrormovieyearbook.com.
Right on. Brian, what have you been playing?
Some Destiny and Rainbow Six and some PUBG. We've been playing a lot of PUBG solo rounds.
I got to be quick with the Brian finger.
Yeah. The Brian finger.
All right.
I've been trying to eat small food and drink lots of cocktails. Good.
All right, I'm done.
All right.
I'm done with that.
Okay.
Let's talk about Ghost of Tsushima. Let's just get it right out the gate here.
Yeah.
I love this game. And I didn't think I was gonna like it because I was reading reviews and everybody was like, "This game is like one of those open world, like lots of icons on the map, blah 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 blah. Like you got a horse that you can ride and stuff, and like it's a lot of the same, but it's so beautiful." And I agree with all of those things, but this game is awesome. I get a lot of Breath of the Wild out of this game. Like I feel like I'm playing like some souped up version of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and that is not a bad thing by any means. Is it open world? Absolutely. Are there a ton of icons on the map? Not really, to be honest with you. Like anybody who like even brings it up should just shut up, because this is nothing compared to Horizon Zero Dawn or like a Far Cry game in terms of that.
It feels pretty spaced out on the map.
And it is absolutely gorgeous, especially with HDR on. If you have a PS4 Pro and you've got it running with like the super whatever beast mode or whatever the hell they call it, and all that stuff running on a 4K TV with HDR, like my God, is this game beautiful.
Yeah.
If you hit our Twitter account, I've been trying to take snapshots every once in a while and post them up so people can see what it looks like, because I'm absolutely floored. I think Sucker Punch did a fucking bang up job on how good this game looks. I know, Alex, you had mentioned that that your dog shit, I think is the quote at the combat. Like, what do you feel is the issue with the
Okay.
combat? Just out of curiosity.
All right. So to be fair, that was like just a couple hours into the game.
Right.
I feel a lot of the same way that you do. I just finished the first act. I don't know if you've done that yet. You're
Yeah, so
close.
I finished the first act, and then
Okay.
I got a mission to like unlock the legend of some totally badass dude's armor. And
Okay.
so I literally spent 4 hours hunting down this dude's armor last night and finished it today before we started playing
Damn.
because I really wanted to get this armor. I can't remember what it is. I'll look it up, but go ahead.
Okay.
Keep going.
Going back to your question about the combat, I feel much better at it now. I've gotten more practice with it, but also when you start, um, so one of the main things of this game is there are 4 stances, and it takes time to unlock each stance. You have to observe and or kill camp like Mongol leaders in order to um, unlock these stances. And what the stances do, they make you better at fighting people that use certain weapons. So there's a stance for fighting people with swords. There's a stance for fighting people that have shields. There's a stance for fighting people that have lances and like axes, and then there's another stance for people that are like I think they call them bruisers, who are like the
Yeah,
heavies.
the brutes, the heavies.
Brutes,
Yeah.
yeah.
They've got like giant maces or big axes, or I've seen some that have like a shotgun mechanism too. Like they've
Okay.
used like actual projectile like guns.
Hmm.
Um,
Um,
but yeah, yeah.
So unlocking those stances, learning more about how they work, you're basically like hitting triangle to break somebody's break their stance, and then you're using square to like actually attack them for the most part. It's kind of like a heavy and light attack type system. I feel like I've gotten way better at it as I've unlocked more of the like advantages that you get for parrying attacks, and there's also some advantages for or like being able to dodge away. You have to unlock the ability to like do a dodge roll out of enemy attacks and things like that. So I think it's gotten a lot better in terms of like I don't feel that bad at the combat anymore, but I feel like early on it was pretty tough, and so I think I think it's gotten easier. I'm curious to see if it's gotten too easy. Like, since I'm only through the first act, I don't know how they start to like ramp up the enemy difficulty. If it's just like they're throwing more numbers at you,
Have
or
you done the horse assassinations?
no.
So if you run up on a squad of enemies on patrol and you hit triangle, you can jump off the horse and run your sword down a dude's skull.
Is
Like,
that an ability though?
I don't know if it is or isn't. It just started doing it for me.
Okay.
But I'm at the point where when I do that, it only does a critical hit to the enemies that I'm fighting right now. It
Okay.
doesn't assassinate, which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, like I feel as though I've gotten significantly better at the combat,
Yeah.
and a lot of that, like it's funny because the whole like the whole what you might call it intro to the game, uh they spend this whole amount of time talking, like your character Jin as a child is talking to his uncle, learning how to fight, and his uncle's talking about patience and learning patience.
Mm-hmm.
And this game is a game that requires a little bit of patience when you're starting it, because you need to really lock in the fighting mechanism. And one of the cool things they allow you to do, describing to our listeners here, is that when you come up on a group of enemies, you can stand off with them, which is like an honorable way of fighting in the samurai code. And so you get off your horse, you challenge one of their strongest fighters, the guy comes up to you and he readies his weapon, and you ready your weapon by holding down triangle. One of the things I've learned is to like just kind of sit and wait, because they can fake you out and
Yeah.
try and make you strike. And if you strike first them faking you out, they will do a massive amount of critical
Yeah.
damage to you. But if you watch their feet, when their feet move towards you, the second they lift a foot, you let off the button and you will kill them instantly. And it
Interesting.
is awesome. And like you just have to learn to like be super patient. The game is very cinematic in the way it handles those situations. You learn an ability to then chain multiple standoff attacks.
Mm-hmm.
So as you approach a group of like 4 enemies, you end up killing 3 of them with doing little to no effort, and then the fourth one you kind of have to maybe put a little more into. But learning how to properly parry and everything and dodge roll and those sorts of things, like the game is, it handles all of that really really well. I actually think the fighting is super strong in this. It feels Dark Souls without being as punishing as Dark Souls is with some of the animation lock that you get. um but yeah, it definitely, even the fighting does feel like very Breath of the Wild to me too.
Yeah.
The stances are cool because that reminds me of Neo, and Neo
Yeah.
had like used the stances like quite well, which is great. um but yeah, man, this game is dope.
So it's funny when you mention on the standoff the fake outs. I bited on the fake outs like 40% of the time. It's they're pretty rough sometimes. So I'll have to watch for the feet, and hopefully that'll make me do better.
It's
But
gonna change. It's gonna change the way you play
good.
the standoffs, because you'll notice like they'll, when they do their fake out, like it's usually just their upper body that's moving,
Yeah,
but it's literally like the lifting of a foot is them approaching you for attack, and
that
so
makes
you just
sense. Yeah.
yeah.
The other
So
thing, the other thing is there's like the story is like Jin Sakai is the main character, and his like upbringing is that he's a samurai. He should be fighting honorably, and there's this conflict because like if you face the Mongols head on, then they will probably um they may or may not kill hostages that they have with them. And so like the idea that there's this duality, like the ghost, like all the not trailers, but like the state of play that they did, where they're like you can play as the honorable samurai or you can play as the ghost, where you're doing things more stealthily and doing assassinations and things like that, which are not as honorable. I feel like so far I don't know how that's going to play out in the end, but I don't think, from what I hear from other people who have completed the game, I don't think there's like um
a penalty,
a penalty for doing that. I think,
right?
and it's like the game almost assumes that you have to do it, so there's no way for there to be even a reward if you don't do that.
Well, and that's
And
kind of the
so
explanation that Jin gives when you're talking to your uncle. His uncle's like, I hear you, I hear you've been doing things like not by code or whatever, and he's like, I've done what I had to do. And like
yeah.
he's literally just saying like, I don't have a choice, like this is the option I have, and if I hadn't done it, you'd be dead now, to
Well,
his
and
uncle
yeah, and
essentially. Like,
it makes sense, but I also feel like it was a weird talking point for them to bring up if it wasn't going to be like a Paragon Renegade meter from like Mass Effect or something like that. But
right.
all in all, it's not like a big consequential thing. I just think it's kind of weird that they deal with that like duality without really making there be any major repercussions for whichever way you choose to go.
Right.
But I'm trying to think. There's some of the other things that so the other thing that I was gonna say, like with the stances, when you're vibing and you just have enemies coming at you with different weapons, and you like hold down R2 to switch stances, and it slows down, and you can kind of like plan out who's attacking you next and react to what they're doing. There's moments where the combat in this game flows really well, and it feels
Yes,
great. Um,
absolutely.
so I have really enjoyed that in particular. Um, but I also really like the stealth in this game. I think they do a pretty good job of notifying you when somebody is going to see you, and things like that. There's even like eventually an ability that you can unlock where it tells you if it highlights the characters that you're going to assassinate if their assassination will alert somebody nearby, which I think is interesting, and I can't wait to get that because that'll help me remain a little bit stealthier. But it also, like the duality of the mechanics has made it so that even if you reach a fail state in the stealth, you still have the ability to kind of go through and do work and be okay. It doesn't mean
Right.
you, like, there are still some fail states where it's like you can't alert people here because they have hostages or whatever. But in general, when you're just kind of running around doing main stuff that's not hostage related, it feels like you have the ability to kind of attack it however you want, and even if you break stealth, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're completely screwed, even if there's a lot of people that come after you. But
Right.
um, yeah, I'm liking it a lot. What I will say, the story has just started to hook me after finishing Act One. Early on, I've been doing a lot of different side stuff. You get side missions and all that type of stuff, and you can go hunt down other things to see and things like that. But I'm just now getting to the point where I'm actually intrigued. So I think it's weird that it kind of took a little while to get there. Because I've done so much side stuff, I don't know exactly how long it takes if you're just doing critical path things. But
That's
um,
the thing. Like if you didn't do the side things and you just looked at Act One, and it tells you right off the bat, like all of the plot points that you need to hit to
yeah,
get through Act One are like given to you right off the bat. And like as I did those things, I thought to myself, like, okay, like if I hadn't gone around and like collected all this other stuff and unlocked all these other abilities and things, I probably could have gotten through Act One in like maybe 2 hours.
yeah, something like that. And it. I think
And that's not to say that they're just throwing a bunch of filler at you by
mhm.
any means. Like the the game is fun. It has all kinds of goofy little things to do, like chasing the foxes to find the Inari shrines and collecting the charms to make your weapons and abilities better and
And you
yada
can
yada.
pet the
Like that's all
foxes.
that's cool. Like the haiku thing is hilarious. I saw your tweet about that.
So normally like haiku is supposed to be a very reflective thing, but also like there's been some people giving the game crap because haikus weren't invented by the time that this game takes place. Um, so I've kind of taken that as a liberty to be like, I'm gonna make these haikus as dumb as I possibly can and make as little sense as possible. So that's been a fun exercise to try and like basically you like find this little haiku sitting area, you sit down at it, and then it's like, hey, you're gonna write a haiku about death, and then you basically scan across the screen and there's 3 points that have different lines and you can pick which line you want, and then you do that 3 times, you finish your haiku, the character says the haiku, and you get a headband that is like headband of death, and then it's like, here's my haiku about death. And so I don't remember what the one that I have in my tweet is. You have to go to MGN Podcast on Twitter to go watch it. But um, I think it's fun to just make them stupid, which is not in the spirit of the activity. But I think
Right, and here I am making serious haikus, like contemplating each line as I'm reading them, and Megan's like watching me play, and she's like, "So what does any of that mean? That all sounds very deep." And I'm like, "I'm just reflecting on perseverance." Like,
well, I'm reflecting on it in a very different way.
right.
What is the
So
least about perseverance I can make this thing?
the
Um,
armor that I was tracking down is the armor of Gosaku,
okay.
and its major ability is that it basically like causes a major stagger to enemies,
Oh, all right.
which is pretty great because it's made fighting some of these dudes a lot easier. The Sakai clan armor is super sweet looking. A lot of the armor sets are really rad. Um, but yeah, the
It.
what other little elements are there? When you do shrines, like shrines help you earn charms, and the charms you use to like add to your weapons. The shrines are each a little climbing puzzle, which can be really fun,
Mm-hmm.
especially as you get your grappling hook. Like they start throwing tree limbs at you that you got to swing from and things like that. I like those. Um,
I will say the some of the swinging stuff feels a little imprecise to the point where like when I first got it I was falling off of a lot of the cliffs I was trying to land on.
Yeah,
Um
I've noticed that. Again, it kind of ties into that patience thing of
yeah,
like you kind of have to redirect the camera to aim the way you want to aim, so you know where you're going and can like see ahead. Like you
yeah,
have to kind of take a little bit of that foresight and like use it. But yeah, I've had a couple wonky falls where
yeah.
I've had to where I died
Yep.
essentially. Like I think Jason Schreier joked about like, "Oh, that's cool. You're this all-powerful samurai, but a 5 foot fall kills you." Like,
Yeah,
which it's not really a 5 foot fall. Like,
Well, and the fall damage is a little weird, but then I think there's also like a thing you can put a technique point into that lessens the fall damage or allows
Well,
you to like do a roll.
you do a roll, you do a
Yeah.
danger roll out of a fall, and then you don't take any damage.
That's the
So
other thing that I'll say too is that I spent so much time doing other stuff that I feel like I've unlocked a good amount of the things that you can invest your technique points into, and like I don't know if they're gonna open up more things for me to do that. I can't imagine. I've only been in 1/3 of the game, and I feel like I'm getting towards the end of a lot of these trees. Like I have almost all four of the stance trees filled up, and those are only like 4 points a piece, really. But like I know there's plenty of stuff to keep investing in because I don't really use the ninja tools as much as I should and things like that. But I think I'm just kind of curious about what happens with the techniques and the battle stuff and how difficult things can really get and how they can keep upping the challenge and whether or not you hit a point where it's just kind of like, well, I'm just super overpowered now, which also sounds great. But
well, that's kind of the whole point of the game is to become this super powered legend, and
yeah,
like even through like halfway through the first act, the one character Yuna starts calling you the ghost of Tsushima, and
yep,
that's kind of like how your name is perpetuating through the land is like you are this risen from the dead warrior who is like going around murdering all the Mongols, and
yep.
it's kind of cool. Like I dig that whole aspect of it, and yeah, what a cool game, man. Like I'm enjoying it. I don't care how much other people have been hating on it for being an open world game, like which it has that formula. It has huge tie. You can tell that they were heavily influenced by Breath of the Wild. Like you can feel that
Yeah,
in the
the
game.
one thing that I'll say about that, and the one thing that I wish they would have like obviously, I think you're right with like the respect to signposting, the idea that you can like, oh, there's a fire, I can see this trail of smoke in the distance, I should go check it out, or kind of organically using the idea that the wind is your actual waypoint, like
Yeah, your compass.
your compass is so cool and a beautiful idea, and I think it works very well. But the other thing that I wish they would have gotten from Breath of the Wild is like I feel like in Breath of the Wild you don't leave any stone unturned because there's either like a Korok seed under it or you find a weapon you can use or something like that. I wish they would have gone a little bit further in making it rewarding to go and explore things because I feel like there's sometimes where I like climb the top of a guard tower and there's absolutely nothing there and it's like, well, I did this for absolutely nothing.
Right.
But even if they just put a little stack of supplies, which is like your currency to do some upgrades and stuff, I think they could have.
Yeah, give you a reason to go somewhere and like
Yeah.
look at stuff and like see how beautiful the game is. Like I get that. It's I mean I think that I think because the little points of interest on the map there are not a ton of them because they're so spread out. It kind of allows you to do that. Like you can I look at the map and I see like, okay, I have a major story plot point over in this quadrant of the map. And when I start heading there, I'm going to hit these little question
Yeah.
marks on the map. And like that's when I start kind of branching out. Is like I'm heading in one direction, but as I'm going that way, I'm also going to peek at these little things around it. And as you do that, you start looking at the map again and it opens up more of those little points. And you'll run into the golden birds that take you to random things that you need to see.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to talk about was the bamboo strike challenges are
Minigame. Yeah.
awesome. I think
Those are
that's so
fun.
great. Like it's literally like trying to do fighting game combos, but like
Yeah.
as a samurai to
Yeah.
like show everyone that you're the most badass samurai. And like I'm sitting here making gang signs with my hands on the controller trying to like do these like
Yeah.
bamboo strikes and
So we can explain a little bit more. There's these stands that they line up 7 bamboo things on. It's like a sword training thing that you find in like feudal Japan. And so first they start you with 3 bamboo sticks and you have to hit 3 buttons rapidly, like successively as you start. Like the first one you hit, you got to hit the other 2 immediately in order to finish the combo, right? And then it goes to 5 and then it goes to 7. So you get this like 7 button long chain of that you need to hit, kind of like Simon Says and things like that. And then when you do that, it helps you unlock more resolve, which is like kind of your It's
Your
what you use
Estus
to,
flask.
yeah, it's what you use to heal with your Estus flasks, and then there's other like more powerful fighting techniques that use some resolve as well. So those are fun, and yeah, I love following the foxes from the fox den to go like help unlock more charm slots, and also just petting the fox. I think it's fun. Um, but the one thing I will, so there's two things that I wanted to comment on. The I started the game in Japanese language, and the opening cinematic really threw me off because they did not change the lip sync for the
Yeah.
Japanese, which is kind of a bummer to me that they wouldn't have both English and Japanese lip sync to it, because it is like I feel like there's probably a lot of people that would want to play it in Japanese and have the lips match that. So it's kind of this reverse like,
Especially because it's not like we don't have the technology to do that. Like,
well, yeah, and I it was probably just like a the only thing that I will say is that I do feel like these characters emote particularly well, so I wonder if they did a lot of motion capture type stuff, and maybe that's why it's not so easy.
yeah.
But the other thing that I will say, so I went to English and then I switched it back to Japanese because I'm like, I don't need, I'm going to be reading their words anyway. I can't look at their faces at the same time.
Yeah, I'm deaf, so I need to read these.
But the other thing was I have not used the Kurosawa mode, which is like the black and white film grain mode.
Yeah, heavy contrast. Like,
Yeah, because I feel like the game is so pretty that number one, I don't want to do that. And then number two, there's some quests and things that require you to like look at the color of the flowers that are around you, and like you need to use those as a guide to the place that you're going, or the
well,
thing
I
that
mean,
you brought up of the yellow bird that flies to like that you can kind of follow in order to get to
yeah,
things like
but I'm wondering if like because the wind will point you in the direction of the area you need to head to anyways, and if you run into those colored flowers, like Jin does say like, oh,
that's
these are
true.
the blue whatever things that they talked about, or the purple, he mentions the color
Yeah.
like in his dialogue, and I'm wondering if maybe when you switch that on, if he says something about the word or the birds too, like.
My understanding is that he does not.
But
I
there is the
haven't done that
cue, like
myself,
there is
but
an audio cue from the bird, like,
okay, yeah.
and they are pretty obvious that it is not a normal like animation for that bird, because they're a little. I mean, there are some bugs in this game. Those birds are a little wonky when they get caught up on like, if you're following the yellow bird and they get caught up on a building or something like that, they kind of just like they float into the building and they're just like
Uh-huh.
flapping their wings like crazy, like just knocking into
Yeah,
the
cuz there's
roof
like something
tiles.
inside or under the building that they're pointing you towards or
Yeah,
something like that.
exactly.
But
So
yeah,
some little things like that,
it just
but
feels like I'll probably mess around with the Kurosawa mode after I get through some of the main stuff. Like I might come back to it and mess around with it a bit, but it I don't feel like it would. I certainly wouldn't recommend it for anybody just like booting it up for the first time.
right.
I feel like enjoying the beauty of the game because it is so pretty, and the fact. Have you done any of the fast travel?
Yes,
It's so fast,
it
and
is
I
very
do
fast.
not understand. Like maybe it's just because we're only in like the bottom third of the island. Maybe if you went from one end to the other, it would be longer, but it's way faster than I anticipated it to be. Like I thought it was because I put that hybrid drive in my PS4, and apparently everybody is like, no, it's ridiculously fast.
No, it's very fast. Yeah.
So that's crazy. The fact that they have an open world game, the fast travel is quick, and it looks so pretty is it's an insane it's an insane accomplishment. Like I have mine on performance mode because I wanted it to be solid frames. So I haven't really been using I didn't look at like the higher graphical quality mode either, so that might even be crazier, but no, it's great.
Yeah,
I'm
I cranked up the graphic quality and I turned on the HDR and messed with all of that stuff, and I I was blown away by the way it looks. It's just incredible. The amount of atmosphere that having HDR creates for you as a viewer is astounding, especially in some of these like sunset like settings, like when because the game has like a day and night cycle. When it starts like setting and you get that like that blare of orange through the sky like you normally
Yeah.
would in real life. Like, and you're just like looking at it and you're like, I'm looking at a fucking video game. Like, are you kidding me right now?
Well, even some
Like,
of the like darkness that comes when there's storms that like
yeah,
arrive and things like that, it's incredible. HDR I think is so much more important than like 4K in my opinion. I'd much rather have HDR 1440p monitors for my computer and things like that
yeah,
cuz it can make things pop so much. It's awesome.
agreed. Yeah, no, this game's something else, man. It's a great it's a great way to wrap up this console
Yeah.
cycle. I feel like because it does a little bit of everything. It's fun to play. It does the open world thing. It's beautiful. The sound and the music is fantastic. Like it's just like a good way to wrap up this generation, I think. Um, and it's gonna tie me over until Cyberpunk comes out, I think, because I'm like actually like pretty motivated to go through and collect a lot of the stuff and do all the challenges and things, and
Yeah. I
it's great
that's the thing. I'm a little worried about how samey it's going to feel 30 hours into this game, so I'm kind of curious to see if I do finish like if I finish it and then beyond that if I want to go around and collect everything because right now I'm feeling that, but I don't know how I'm going to feel 20, 30 hours into the future with the rest of the game. So
I mean, I definitely want all the armor sets because they're pretty cool
There's the
looking.
other thing I'm gonna say. I'm not even necessarily using the armor sets that much because you get the traveler attire or whatever the hell it's called,
Yeah,
traveler's robes, and that uncovers more of the map as you travel. So I'm usually just wearing that, and then I forget to switch into like samurai armor when I get to wherever I'm going. So I don't I don't even end up using the actual armors all that much. I'm just stuck in the traveler attire, but I do like that they kind of give you upgradable, like your weapons are a little upgradable. Um the armor sets that you get are a little bit upgradable, and every time you upgrade them, you get really useful stats and things out of them. So it's pretty cool, and yeah, I'm excited to play more.
for sure. Brian, what do you think?
Uh, it's it sounds like it's a fun game, but I totally sold my PlayStation 4 like a couple months ago, and like I'm never gonna play it because like exclusive stuff for consoles is stupid. PC Master Race all the way.
Thanks for
Thanks,
that,
Brian.
Brian.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thanks for phoning in.
All right.
Let's
Shall we
let's
get
talk about this Xbox game exclusive, whatever the hell they
real
called
quick?
it.
Let's say a few other things real quick. There's a
Oh, okay.
follow up
Yeah, go ahead.
on the 2K pricing. Their NBA 2K21 at $70. Ubisoft came out and said that they are not going to raise their next gen game prices for now. So
Because
like
because they're about to be canceled. It's the only way anybody's gonna buy their games now.
yeah. So I think they mentioned that like Assassin's Creed, like they're still planning to stick to the $59.99 price point. At least it's Christmas releases according to what the statement that they put out. So whatever's going to be out by the end of the year. Um,
Just Far Cry and then nothing else.
well, no, I think Assassin's Creed is out later this year. Watch Dogs.
Oh yeah,
When
Watch
is
Dogs
Watch
is
Dogs?
October, I
Okay,
think.
so Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed are what they're speaking of. I think we'll see if Far Cry next year in February is going to be $60 or $70, but
Yeah.
very interesting. It's like there's a line in the sand being drawn, and we'll see who else follows who. Other quick Microsoft news.
They're just like, we just had to fire like 6 really high up people, so we've got all this extra money, so we're just gonna keep the game price the same.
Yeah, they're having a tough time, and yeah, I don't know. I can't comment on that too much. It's terrible some of the shit that you hear about from these stories, and hopefully I'm glad people are being listened to and that change is coming, but I don't have a lot of
Yeah, I don't
faith.
mean to make light of the situation
No, I
or
know you don't.
anything.
Yeah.
It's just yeah.
Yeah,
I have my opinions.
that's fair. Microsoft discontinued the Xbox One X and the Xbox One S digital edition ahead of the Series X launch. So they are keeping the Xbox One S with the disk drive around. But it sounds like the Xbox One X is already kind of hard to find, and they will not be making more as of this point, and the digital 1S is also going away. So interesting to me, but I think it makes sense. It's just kind of, I'm wondering how far they're going to dip down with the price of that Xbox One S in order to get people in the door with like Project X Cloud and using Game Pass and all that type of stuff. I think it'll be interesting to see. And then speaking of xCloud, there's also been I think Phil Spencer himself actually said that they are planning to roll Project xCloud into the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate in September. That means you pay $15 per month, you get access to all of the first-party Microsoft games as they get released, plus a bunch of other games. And on top of that, you'll be able to play a lot of those games over the internet with xCloud. You'll be able to play like Halo from your phone and things of that nature. So crazy that they are going to roll that into a subscription that already exists and that it's not like a separate thing like PlayStation Now is, but I'm all for it. I think that's the right way to go.
Yeah, I watched a video from Alana Pierce, who used to be IGN, I believe. She was just like, I don't know why nobody's talking about what Microsoft is doing. Like nobody's really, The Verge put out an article, whatever, but like nobody is talking about the fact that Microsoft has 13 first party studios and 11 of them showed off games at this event, and all of those games are going to be available day one through Game Pass. Like
That
nobody's talking about that.
Well, and that's, I mean, I think people are starting to talk about it because of the fact that, like, I think there were, getting into kind of the stuff that was announced, I think people were a little bit disappointed in the fact that, like, there's only a couple games that are like, these are going to be playable on the Xbox Series X at launch. But Microsoft has this insane strategy of, like, hey, play our games on the Xbox One S, play them on the Series X, play them on your PC. We don't care. We want you to play our games. And
Because
so,
like, at what point are you going to be able to play Series X games on your Xbox One S using Game Pass?
exactly, yeah, like,
So they're not even going to need to sell the console. They just need to sell the service, and that puts them like, I mean, on a whole other level.
they're getting to this point where they are, like, it's interesting if they are going to affect the change of, like, hey, we don't need consoles anymore because you can play our stuff everywhere, and if that's going
Right.
to bite Sony in the ass, basically, because they're not prepared to be like, hey, play our stuff on your PC through our streaming service or whatever it is.
It would be so funny if like Sony comes out, they're like, here's the PlayStation 5. You guys love the way it looks and everything. The new controller's dope. The price tag, $4.99. And Xbox is like, you don't even have to buy our console. Give us $15 a
Exactly.
month and you can play all the fucking games on whatever device you want. You can play them on your computer, you can play them on your phone, you can play them on your tablet, you can play them on your old Xbox. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is revolutionary. They are going to fucking make so many people mad.
Well, and there were a couple articles coming out. One of them might have been the Verge one that you were mentioning, but the idea of like the console war is dead because none of the three big competitors are actually competing with each other anymore. They're all
Yeah.
going after
No, it's
completely
true.
different segments. So it's kind of, it's honestly, it's cool. I would like to see all three of these companies thrive at their own thing and what they're doing, and I think that's kind of what we're headed towards. But
Because I mean, what's better? You make a one-time purchase. I mean, it's better for the consumer, I suppose, in some stances, to like make a one-time purchase and then make gradual purchases as needed. In respect to the PlayStation console and buying exclusive games or whatever. But like, if you are just paying for a monthly service, whether you use it or not, and you're dropping $15 a month, like, and how many millions of people are going to drop that $15 a month? Like, Microsoft's going to make more money.
well, and the thing is like, even from a consumer standpoint here, I kind of still like the idea of these subscription services simply because of the fact that, like, you know, I can pay $15 this month to Microsoft to check out the new Halo that's coming out, and then I pay $15 to Ubisoft to play the new Assassin's Creed when it comes out. Like, it's interesting to me that the thing is, like, if you buy a thing of, I think it's like $119 to get a full 12 months of Game Pass. If you play two of their first party releases in that whole year,
You've made that. Yeah.
you break even. But then on top of that, they have things like they're going to be bringing Destiny and its expansion to Game Pass, like day and date with the release, I think, which is insane. Like, not only that, but other third party thing, like the value. I think Tom was in our Discord saying like the value on Game Pass is insane, and it's nuts.
And
So like,
that's the whole point that like Alana Pierce was making, is that nobody's talking about the value.
yeah,
Like everybody just is like console exclusives, PlayStation, blah blah blah, and they're like, the reality is that the average gamer's consumer, like, especially after dealing with the fucking 6 months worth of pandemic and however much longer we're gonna have to put up with it, nobody's going to have that kind of money to buy games and consoles.
yeah,
But the fact that you could pay your you could get rid of Netflix and pay for Xbox Game Pass instead and get more entertainment and enjoyment out of it than you would otherwise. Like, that's the value is just so good. So good.
yeah. I think it's really interesting. I mean, we should dig into this game showcase a little bit
Yeah,
and
let's
get
do
there.
it.
Like,
Let's
I
talk about
the thing that still isn't quite there for me, for like, the thing is, I have Game Pass Ultimate until like spring 2021, I think, based off of the thing that they did where you could stack your old Game Pass and Xbox Live Gold subscription into Game Pass Ultimate. Um, so I all right, let's go through the showcase.
Let's do it.
The big announcement that came, kind of the thing that they started off with, they had 8 minutes of Halo Infinite gameplay. Um, John, you and I are not big Halo people, so I don't really know that this did anything for you that it also didn't do for me. But did you watch this trailer at all?
No, because I just don't care about Halo. I understand its importance to video gaming and what it did for people, like in the early 2000s, but I just don't care.
Well,
Um,
the insane thing to me is that, like, this opening that I'm showing on the stream right now, you look at this guy and, like, I was just playing The Last of Us 2, and the character model for Joel looks way better than this dude does. Like, I don't know if it's the lighting or what the detail is. Maybe it's the fact that I'm streaming this video instead of playing it on my console in front of me, but like, it's kind of weird to me that this doesn't look.
like, you're speaking purely in like terms of the texture,
I'm speaking in terms of, like, yeah, the graphical quality to me, and
because
they're
I mean
like,
his like the level of emotion being shown on him, I think is pretty astounding. Like, his animation is really good.
I think so too, but I also think it was better in The Last of Us, which is the
Yeah,
crazy thing to
I
me.
can't compare because
Yeah.
I didn't.
So
Yeah.
it's just weird. Like, honestly, maybe people will call me a Sony fanboy or whatever the hell they're gonna say.
I mean,
but
you are, but that's okay.
yeah, and I don't deny it that much. But I don't think
I
it's
have no allegiance.
I don't think it's weird to me that they're like, here's our Series X, and when I look at this, I don't necessarily think that this is like leaps and bounds ahead of where we're currently at. Like, is there like a whole lot of ray tracing going on or whatever?
In all reality, like that's how I feel about this new generation of consoles in general. Like, I don't feel like graphics look really fucking good right now.
They do.
Like,
They do.
they really can't get better. Ray tracing is a definite like upgrade to the technology in terms of like what it, like, just think the concept of ray tracing and what it does is very cool, and the fact that we're able to do that now in like video games is like pretty incredible. But I don't think there's any further we can go with graphical fidelity. I think the next step would be specifically VR, but like making VR graphical fidelity
Mm.
look as good as it does on a, a 4K television or whatever. But
Yeah.
that's besides the point. I do see, or I've realized, like, in reading the internets, that a lot of people were like shitting all over the graphics of Halo and everything, and to me, again, like, I just didn't care. Like, I don't care,
Yeah.
and that sucks. But I mean, there were other things that they showed off at this game showcase that I was like, fuck yes.
Well,
So
we'll get to that real quick. Halo, it sounds like is not a live service game as some people were expecting, but it is a game that they are planning to do a lot of content with. And it looks a little more open world than other Halo games have been, which have been very level based and things of that nature. So I am interested to see what the Halo fans think about it, but I personally am not too invested in it. So we can move on. There was another look at, or a new look at, a next gen Forza Motorsport, which did not have a number attached to it at this time. So I don't know if they're gonna forego the number or what. But it looked very pretty. It's a car game. What do you know? And I would say it looked pretty comparable. Like at least because they didn't really show any gameplay as far as I know. They just kind of showed like this rendered trailer.
if it's all rendered in engine, that's cool because it looks incredible.
Yeah, but that's what all these things. That's what the Assassin's Creed thing said. Rendered in engine, and it's like, yeah, rendered in engine on a machine that has 2 Titans in it and things of that nature. So, so it looks very pretty. I'm sure Brian will be. Brian, how do you feel about the new Forza?
Uh,
Okay, thanks, Brian. All right.
That's just how he feels.
Yeah. They showed another trailer for the Rare game, which is called Everwild.
This game looks pretty cool.
It was very pretty looking. I think I'm down for seeing whatever Rare is doing next. Even though I haven't spent as much time in Sea of Thieves as I would like to have done, but no, it looks very pretty. I like the art style. I think it kind of reminds me of like a Studio Ghibli title.
Yeah.
So yeah, very very cool. Kind of like Studio Ghibli and a little Shadow of the Colossus kind of mixed in kind of stuff, which sounds great. And there's like monsters and things, and they're helping you do stuff, and yeah, so totally down for that. Whatever it is, even though they haven't really shown much.
Yeah, it looks like it's like It's like Avatar: The Last Airbender kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Very cool looking.
They showed a little trailer for State of Decay,
Yeah,
a new
saw
State
that
of Decay.
trailer. I'm not sure what to expect from that because, like, I'm surprised State of Decay is still a thing. I feel like the second one I didn't hear much of anything about.
Yeah, I don't feel like it hit that hard. So, but hey, I know there's people out there that like it. I know Jason likes State of Decay 2 a lot. I could not get into that game at all for some reason, but cinematic looks nice. The other thing that I'll say so far, Halo is the only one of these games coming out at release date.
Yeah.
And that's part of what I'm worried about, but we'll get there. Obsidian showed a preview for their new game after they announced a new DLC for The Outer Wilds, which is coming in September. But Avowed is what they announced, and I think you called it. What did you say? What was your quote from the Discord?
I said this is Obsidian's gonna do Skyrim better than Skyrim can Skyrim.
Sounds great. Sign me up. I'm down to check that out for sure.
This sequence of where they show the guy tracing the rune for the magic with his hands, like all that, Doctor Strange, Warcraft, the movie, like magic stuff is so cool looking.
Yeah.
And they're gonna do it right here. That's just fucking cool, man.
Looks rad. Great animations, and that's the thing. This also looks like a pre-rendered trailer, and we don't know how final any of it is. It sounds like it's pretty far off.
But we can expect that. Obsidian is going to do a very fucking good job.
yeah, for sure.
So I'm pretty pumped about that.
Yeah, I'm down to check that out. I didn't play as much of The Outer Worlds as I would have liked, but I'm down to check out anything they put out because I think they do a really good job. The other really big announcement that they made, there was a Fable. They finally one of the worst kept secrets in the land was that their Playground Games, one of the studios that they acquired, was working on a new Fable. And it's cool to finally see it. The trailer makes it say that it makes it feel like they're still doing kind of the whimsical humor-ish type stuff that they were doing with like Fable had a very weird sense of humor. I never played.
It was like
of
Bard's
but
Tale, but like a
Yeah.
different. Like, yeah, Fable. I think Fable 2 is the one I spent the most time with, and it was very funny and enjoyable.
Yeah, I'm down for a new Fable. I would be down to check that out for sure. It would probably be one of the more interested things that I was in, and what they saw, what they came out with today. But unfortunately, this was just another. Hey, here's a trailer. No word on when it's coming, which I think disappointed some people. We were thinking they were going to be like, "Hey, Fable's going to be out at launch," and it certainly doesn't seem like it will be.
Right.
Um, so there's a game being published by Xbox called Tell Me Why from the Life is Strange developer Don't Nod. It looks like a very Life is Strange style game.
Yeah, it's actually a Backstreet Boys simulator.
I don't think so, but no, it looked okay. Very much in the same vein of the Life is Strange games, and looks very nice.
Tell me why.
Updated graphics. Yeah, I think I think you've made this joke before, which is reminding me that I think they announced it a while ago. There were a few other short announcements. There's a multiplayer offering coming for Tetris Effect, which is an Xbox timed exclusive. Sounds cool. I don't think they shared a whole lot about it. It'd be crazy if they were doing like Tetris 99 in Tetris Effect engine. That would be awesome. Um, but then yes, also Destiny 2 and its upcoming expansion Beyond Light were confirmed for Xbox Game Pass, which is pretty cool. Probably won't be on PC would be my guess, right? Since that's it's not like they're gonna publish it on the Windows Store, I would think.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no firm date yet. So I guess okay. So I guess it might not be day and date. It might not be on November 10th, which is when the Destiny expansion got delayed too. But it sounds like it's coming at least. They showed off a game called As Dusk Falls, which is from a bunch of former Quantic Dream staff. Quantic Dream are the people who brought you Detroit Become Human and the other David Cage games. But the art style in this game looked really interesting. I don't know if you saw this one or not. They look like they're using photographs of actual people, and they're kind of rotoscoping them in like the um, a Scanner Darkly kind of
Yeah, yeah.
style, and then they're like using some 3D objects, and it's weird. It's kind of cardboard cutouty, but I think it's really intriguing looking. I don't really know what the video game is going to be exactly, but I think it has a really nice style to it, so I'm kind of curious about it.
It's gonna be one giant QuickTime event.
That's entirely possible. Yeah, I don't know. It could be like that. It could be kind of uh Telltale game ish. Like I don't know exactly, but it looks kind of storybook like digital graphic novel ish, which is interesting.
Yeah, no, it's very cool looking for sure.
And then I don't know. There were a couple other things. They showed another look at The Medium, which is from Bluebird. It's that game that had they actually showed in this trailer that they are they were their sales pitch was like, hey, we are going to be rendering both versions of this world at the same time, because this is that game where like the medium woman was walking around, and then she like all of a sudden the world changes around her. Let me see if I can
Okay.
get to that part in the trailer. But it looked pretty cool. Like they were showing side by side shots of like, here's the two sides that are getting rendered at the same time, because it looks like you can basically press a button or something. There will be some type of mechanic where it just completely changes into whatever the other reality is. So I think it
Yeah,
looks
that's pretty
cool.
cool.
I don't know what the game is, but I'm excited to check it out.
What else
At some
has
point.
Bluebird done?
Bloober's other thing, they did a game called Observer. They also did Blair Witch,
Okay.
which I did. I haven't played either of those. I've heard great things about Observer.
Blair Witch is on Game Pass too, I think.
It was for a while. I'm not sure if it still is or not. It might be. But yeah. And then the SteamWorld developer is coming out with a new action adventure game called The Gunk. It's very different than any of their SteamWorld games. Have you played any of those or no?
I have not. I do have them on Stadia Pro.
The SteamWorld Dig. I've played through the first SteamWorld Dig, and it's a very nice, like Metroid-ish kind of game. And so I'm kind of intrigued to see what they do. I feel like this is their first time really getting into like 3D graphics. I might be wrong about that. But it looks interesting. It's got like it kind of reminds me of like a Psychonauts kind of art style a little bit.
I can see that.
But yeah, I think it looks great. And then finally, they also announced that Dragon Quest XI will finally be coming to the Xbox at some point in December, which is interesting. And then they showed off like,
Like
a
2 years later.
yeah. In the pre-show, they showed off something from Yuji Naka, who is the creator of Sonic the Hedgehog. He's got a new game that's coming from like Square Enix. But it's got kind of an interesting art style. Looks very Japanese, cutesy. But yeah.
That's cool.
So overall, I mean, I don't know if you have any major takeaways from this.
I mean, my biggest takeaway from the entire thing again just deals with Game Pass in general and the fact that like these are first party games. These are games that like they would be the Ghost of Tsushima or your Horizon Zero Dawn on PlayStation or whatever. Like it's going to be that level of game coming to a subscription service that costs you $15 a month or whatever, instead of you having to pay like $60 or $70 or $80 a month or per game. You can play every single one of these games
Yeah.
the day they come out. Like that's incredible. So like the fact again that Microsoft is doing this particular service is something that should be talked about more, because I think it's extremely important to the industry.
I think I think long term that all makes a lot of sense, but in the short term, I was kind of aghast at the fact that they basically showed off a couple, like less than a handful of games that are coming to the Xbox One X or Series X at launch. Like,
Yeah.
granted, like I think in terms of Sony's stuff, I don't remember how many of those were actually launch titles, other than like
But
probably
I mean, I'm
Ratchet and
curious to
Clank.
know, like, is it the sort of thing where like we could literally like the Xbox Series X comes out, Halo drops at launch, a bunch of people are going to buy it just for that,
Yeah,
but then you're also like, you get the people that buy it, they're like not really into Halo, but they can go back and like play their copy of The Witcher 3 that they bought on Xbox Live. And
yeah.
like,
Maybe
and
it's
they're like, okay, I'm upgrading my system. I'm going to get faster loading times, better graphics to some extent, because some of these games are going to be able to do that. And they're like, I'm just going to wait it out until something else comes out that I want, but now I don't have to worry about like having this older system. I can sell it off, or I can give it to my little nephew or whatever. Like, like you're going to have a lot of that, I think, because it's similar to like the way PCs just kind of run. Like you upgrade and you wait for the next best thing to come out, but in the meantime, like other games that you are currently playing look better, load faster, the whole bit. So I think it is shocking that they're not showing off more of what will actually launch with the Series X. But again, I think they're still playing that like that cat and mouse game with Sony
yeah.
in terms of the not just the price point, but like what else is what's Sony putting out like with launch, and they still need more of that, I think.
Yeah, and that's what I'm looking at right now. I guess maybe my assumptions were kind of bad, but we at least know that Ratchet and Clank is going to be pretty early on. I think we know that Spider-Man Miles Morales is going to be coming
But early
shortly
on is
after
another
launch.
story. Like
Yeah.
what is launching with the system? Because both of these systems and companies are notorious for coming out at launch with a pretty lackluster amount of games. Like what came out with the PS4 that was like you were shitting your pants over? Nothing, because everything they announced that was going to come out at launch, Watch Dogs, Division, like all these other games, were postponed and delayed until 2 years later, essentially.
Yeah.
Destiny, I think, was originally supposed to be a launch title for PS4, and it wasn't. Like, uh, and even like look at the Xbox 360. Like, what launched with that? You had the King Kong game and like a Call of Duty 2. Like,
it's fair. Yeah, I mean, normally you expect pretty like very fresh, like soft offerings of like this is us getting used to this new platform. It's a game that probably could have come out on the previous system, but we put it out
That's
on
the thing
this
is that I
one.
think they're gonna rely heavily on this like smart delivery or like the idea that you can play games that came out on the last generation on this new system,
Yeah,
i.e. Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk is going to fucking sell consoles. Straight up. It's gonna do Cyberpunk is gonna do for this next generation the same thing Skyrim did for the PS3 and the Xbox 360.
yeah.
I had people buying systems to play Skyrim that never played a fucking game in their life. And they were like, "Oh man, have you played Skyrim?" And I'm like, "Have I played Skyrim?" Like, absolutely. Like they'd
Yeah,
be like, "Oh yeah, I just got my Xbox over the weekend and I'm playing Skyrim for the first time." And I'm just like, "Oh, okay, cool, dude." But like
it's
that's what that did for that generation. I think we're going to see a lot of that now with this new generation. We're going to see people who have never or who weren't really all that big into video games or were in college and had to get a real job and then now they're back to video games because they're quarantined at home and they're going to buy a fucking brand new system and they're going to play Cyberpunk and it's going to be that game for people. I think just speculating.
yeah, that could be true. It's just kind of interesting to me that like they I don't know how it's that hard to time out one of these big exclusives for your new game, like or for your new system. Like why isn't there Gran Turismo 7 coming out at launch? Like why didn't God of War 2015 come out on or not 2016 come out in 2030? Like obviously it's like
I mean,
yeah,
I
it
think a
takes
lot of
time,
it
but
comes from the idea that like they still haven't given us an actual like when's it going to be in people's hands. What
yeah.
is the actual launch date? Who fucking knows, man? It's probably going to be November 17th, like it is every fucking year. It's going to be my birthday. Like
Yeah, they were bringing up on trying to think of what I was listening to
it's going to be that week before Black Friday. Like
well, I was listening to the I think it's called Brad and Will Make a Tech Pod, which one of them is from Giant Bomb and the other guy also worked at Giant Bomb a longer time ago. And they were discussing the fact that like it's going to be really hard to break through on like traditional media in early November because of the election this year.
yeah.
So like the idea that they would be trying to release a console in the lead up to all of that when there's like debates and crazy political ads and all that type of stuff trying to hit seems kind of crazy. So I think you're right. I think it's going to be like real like mid November and they'll be like, here's the release day. It's out now, and then things are gonna sell out, and then they'll be like, "All right, everybody's holding stuff back for Black Friday, like they usually do. They like
They're
kind of
probably just
stockpile."
waiting for the election to see if the economy tanks again.
Yeah, they just push back the PlayStation 5 at the in the beginning of November.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's weird. They're still playing chicken on the price. We still don't know exactly what exactly when and how much and things of that nature. But I don't know. I think Microsoft, as much as I wasn't like, there are games there that I'm interested in. I'm not super. They still haven't like completely grabbed me with like any of their exclusives in the way that Sony has for some reason. But it sounds like they're starting to like put in the work with all of those developers that they've acquired, and that's great.
Yeah.
It just sounds like it's still coming a little ways off. So I'm excited for some of that to start paying off. But the idea that like they're gonna say, hey, like how much do you think they're gonna sell the Xbox One S for if you're gonna be able to play all this shit on it anyway? Like, what's the minimum price to get in on the new generation of Xbox games? I feel like it's gonna be like $150 to $200 or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't even
Like,
know. Like,
I don't even know what it's currently priced at for an Xbox One S, but
I think it's $200.
let's take a look. They still have it selling on their website for $299 for the 1 terabyte version. So I feel like I feel like they'll probably drop it down to $200 right around launch time, and they'll be like, here's the one for $200, and then Lockhart or whatever the hell it's called is maybe like $300, and then maybe the Series X is like $450 or something like that. I don't know,
Yeah.
but that sounds like a pretty incredibly strong hardware lineup for them to be like, hey, here you go. This is Xbox for the next generation. So
Yeah.
Yep.
And again, I think they will make it so you can play the new games on the old hardware. Like that will be a huge selling point for them.
Yeah, I think they're straight up like a lot
Like
of
you're
theirs.
gonna see it. Like they're not gonna call it Project X Cloud, but you're gonna see a Project X Cloud app appear on the Xbox.
That's got yeah, and that's the thing. Like I think there are some of the box art that they're starting to show off shows like, hey, this is Xbox and it's smart delivery and whatever. Like if you buy Cyberpunk, it's going to be not only an Xbox One game but also a Series X
Right.
game.
Yeah, it's got the smart delivery tag at the bottom.
Yeah, and so but even not only that, but also like I think Halo I think is also coming out on the one and will also be on Series X as well. And so, but then they're eventually going to get to the point with like Forza, I think was only announced for the Series X and PC. So like, are you going to be able to play that Forza via xCloud on your launch Xbox One? Maybe, which sounds crazy, but that sounds like their strategy. So hey, interesting times ahead, I think, for the console war.
I agree wholeheartedly. So, anyways,
Brian, what do you think about all that?
I agree with pretty much everything you guys have said, because you're both kings, and I want to praise you.
Well, thank you, Brian. That's the nicest thing you've ever said to us on air. Oh boy.
man, yeah. Yeah, if you want to follow us on social media or see all the places you can listen to or watch the show, check out MidwestGameNerds.com/links. Brian, can you say that for me?
Check out MidwestGameNerds.com/links. The Midwest Podcast Network now has a Patreon. The Patreon is meant to benefit all the shows on the network. You can subscribe for as little as $1 a month to help keep our shows alive and well. Check it out at npn.bz/Patreon.
And as always,
keep going, Brian.
yeah, Brian, why don't you take the end here?
As always, we do appreciate your feedback, which you can send to MidwestGameNerds@gmail.com. And don't forget to follow us on Twitch, as well as rate and review us on your favorite podcatcher. Thanks again to Jason K. Gojo and Sidza for their contributions to the Patreon. We appreciate it very much.
Thanks, Brian.
You're welcome.
For anybody not watching the video, you should maybe check it out for this episode. It'll be on YouTube and Twitch.
It's a good one. Brian's out of town.
Yes.
And
if anybody
so
hasn't noticed.
I'm covering for him. I'm not sure what we're gonna do next. I think did you end up picking up Paper Mario or no?
I didn't. I would like to, but I'm also trying to lean into Ghost of Tsushima. Rick also texted me today, and Carrion from Devolver Digital came out on like Switch and Steam and maybe some other stuff as well. So kind of want to check that out, but I also kind of want to just dump all of my time into one game at a time rather than
sure.
ADD
No, I heard
off
good
of it.
things about Paper Mario, and the latest episode of Triple Click spoke very highly of it. But I'm trying to cancel Jason Schreier, so that's a whole other battle.
Yeah,
But anyways,
a losing battle.
he would win for sure. He's a giant bully, so
Yeah.
we'll let him have it. But yeah, everybody, if you have something you want us to talk about, please do let us know. Hit us up on social media or MidwestGameNews@gmail.com, and we will figure out what we're going to talk about next time and go from there. And yeah, that's all. That's all this time. Thanks again. Talk to you guys later. Peace.